Probably one of the most highly discussed, highly demanded legs and glutes. Legs and glutes tends to be the hardest body part for us as women to change. We're either picking ourselves apart for the back of our legs being spongy and flabby, or our thighs just feeling like they're tree trunks, but we're never really seeing definition in them. I know that you can relate to this because this was something that kept me stuck for so long. And I guess I want to caveat and start this whole podcast with a disclaimer that it doesn't matter about anything else that I mentioned. It doesn't matter about anything else at all in the system. If there is no effective training that is part of this, if you are not training effectively on a smart program that is made for you and progressed with you as you progress, then it is really going to be a fighting battle for you to see any changes in your legs, because nothing can shape your body, nothing can change your shape, nothing can build muscle, sculpt, harden, or lean you out. It's muscle that does that. Training is the only thing that builds muscle. It's the only thing that builds shape. It's the only thing that gets you stronger, and is the only thing that inherently will make us look shapely and sculptly. It's just also important to realize that effective training, just because you're training hard does not mean it's effective for results. And just because you're training heavy does not mean that it's effective for results either. Effective training for results will always be hard and heavy, but just because it's hard and heavy does not make it effective. So we need to make sure that all the factors are in place first when it comes to your training. There needs to be the recovery there. There needs to the program needs to be laid out really well. You need to have effective exercises, effective volume in there. So many programs are overkill, and so many programs just focus way too much on hip thrusts, and hip thrusts are not going to shape your legs, and they are not the best things for your glutes. They're just the icing on the cake. Now, as in, you need to have the cake. If you don't have the cake, there's no point putting icing on it. And many times you don't need the icing. One huge thing to know with all of this is once the training is in place, we need to then understand the other factors that come into shaping our legs the way that we want. This is most likely something that you've experienced at least once in your training history. You may still be struggling with it now, where you're training really hard, you're sticking to your plan, you're trying to trust the process, eating the protein. You've probably trusted yourself to, try to trust a little bit more food, only to feel like your pants are getting tighter, your clothes are feeling tighter, you feel like you're expanding. Maybe the scale is also reading against you. This is where a lot of people freak out. Many women come to me saying that they've tried these programs, these diets, they've lost weight a few times as well, and they've just never been happy with their legs. They see the changes happen in their upper body, but their legs just don't change the way that they want. They don't harden up, they don't see the shape, and they still have the biggest issues with the backs of their legs. And one myth that circulates out there is that you can't spot train. You can very much spot train. You can very much start to train and spot enhance your hamstrings and the backs of your legs if you do it properly. But you can also be training as hard and as heavy and as effectively as you want. But if the building blocks aren't there, or if you're always going into a calorie deficit, it's going to make it really freaking difficult for you to see the changes that you want. So I want to lay out a blueprint so that it's not just you gaining too much fat or you getting too bulky. We want to get the strong, lean, confident look. We don't want to end up blowing it out the other side. So maybe you've looked at your legs after a hard workout and kind of tried to understand why they feel so much bigger, but not leaner, and then freaked out about the fact that now your pants are really tight, that your quads bulk up too fast, that you don't want to train your quads because they get bulky too easily. There's so much of a misunderstanding here, which is why so many of us then start to wonder, what are we doing wrong? But the bulkiness that you're feeling isn't fat. But the hard part is that it's not muscle either. And that's where we get tripped up, because we feel like we're building muscle really easily, especially when we start eating more food. And when you've been restricting for so long, or if you've ever been lower carb for so long, and then you start eating more food, you start building up your veggies, your fruits, your protein, your carbs. You start eating like a lean, fit Like, and you start eating to be lean and strong. You start feeling fluffy and bulky, and that starts to trip you up. But why? It's not fat and it's not muscle. It's actually progress in disguise. And every single time that you sabotage yourself, you question yourself, you doubt yourself, you pull back the effort, you question your food, all of that is stopping you from progressing every single time you do it, even if it's a thought, because that is still mentally dieting, that's mentally restricting, and it takes a toll regardless of whether you physically do anything or not. And that is why I really want you to understand what all of this is about, so that you can stop sabotaging yourself like I did for years. Now, let's start with the questions. Why do your legs feel bigger after training? Or why do they feel big when you start eating a little bit more? Why do they feel big when you start training really heavy, training really hard, pushing yourself really hard, when we know that it's not fat? And we know that, well, most people don't know, and that's the hardest part. It is like, you do not build muscle that fast. The muscle that you feel like you're building within the first couple of months, you'll be lucky to actually build that amount of muscle in a year. Muscle growth is the slowest thing ever. Yet we feel like our legs are really chunky and our arms are really chunky. And then we feel like we've gained a lot of weight or gained a lot of muscle, but we really haven't. And this still is a case. If you have some body fat to lose, you're going to feel this way. But why? Your body is a lot more hydrated now that you have more carbs in you, now that you're training to be strong and lean. It's going to hold in a lot more water, a lot more glycogen, which is the storage form of carbs. So many women stay and run away from that. Where my body could be if I didn't waste those 10 years. And we had Luke coaching us. He had to play games with her to try to get her to see that more food wasn't going to turn her fat. So he wasted 2 years of coaching with her and doing that same thing, bringing her calories up, then down, then up, then down, to show her that she was not going to get fat and that like the weight could go up and down. And that's when she finally trusted the direction and stopped sabotaging and yo-yo dieting and finally started moving forward. So how do you stop this cycle? How do you trust the process when everything in you feels like it's so wrong because it's so different from what you're used to? Well, the first thing is get a coach. Like, no, but honestly, I would say get a coach, get someone to put you on the right path. A good coach, because so many coaches just tell you what you want to hear, which is kind of where Kathleen was when she came to me, because she had a pretty solid coach. She wasn't like a IFBB pro, I coach now. But every single time Kathleen got uncomfortable and wanted to diet, she kept her happy and did the same thing. Whereas now, for the first time ever, she has glutes. Her legs have progressed. She's the strongest she's ever been. She's deadlifted and back squatted for the first time in her life. Like, body weight and more. It's huge, and it brings her so much more confidence. She loves training like a beast now, and she pushes herself to go heavier. You have to understand that discomfort is part of the process, and the temporary fullness, the tighter pants, the scale going up, it's all part of progress, and it potentiates you. And if you do this once and for all, you will never have to struggle or restrict your calories again. It will be so much more rewarding. So train with intention is the first step. Make sure that your training is in the right place and make sure that you take your sets close to, if not to failure. But that can only happen honestly if your program is smart. And because this is a podcast, not something where I'm like trying to lure you into a blog post or this, that, and the other, I'll highlight a few things. You want to make sure your rest periods are there. Because if you're not resting properly, then you might feel like you're training hard and heavy, but you're actually not. The rest period, you'll realize, is necessary for you to give your best. So let's just say 20 kilos might feel like you're pushing your absolute max, but that's only because you're not resting all that much. But if you actually gave yourself the rest that you needed, you can push 30 kilos and it feels the same perceived effort. And the same if you're not fueling with enough carbs. People who do keto feel like they're training really freaking hard all the time, or low carb, they feel like they're training hard all the time. But give them more carbs and they will feel the same way that they're training really hard. But if you look at their numbers and their logbooks, it's immensely increased, and they can even do more in a session because they feel like it's just making them fat, but it's not. It is a necessary part of getting leaner. And if we are so focused on this sensation that we hate, and it's like the issue that I find a lot of women because this is me. I'm talking to myself when I was younger. Not when I was younger, but like when I started. The issue that I had wasn't that my legs were responding in a certain way or that my belly was responding in a certain way. It's because I was so hyper fixated on those particular parts of my body because I hated them so much that I was a lot more sensitive to any sensations that I was not used to. And I was so obsessed with the scale that I feared that thing going above a certain number. So when I jumped right into the process with my coach, he told me to eat more carbs, and it was a lot more than what I was eating. He wanted to fuel my workouts because I was training like a beast, and he still wanted me to train like a beast, but he cut down my workouts from 6 days plus finishes plus hit to just 5 days, 5 short days, which he later cut down to 4 days. But it freaked me out because I'm like, well, if I'm not burning this much energy, which I started to go to because when I freaked out that my legs were getting bigger, what did I do? I tried to burn more energy and calories in my workouts. I tried to do certain things to keep my legs lean. I friggin' cut my carbs and it just made me feel even worse. But why do your legs feel this way and why does it matter so much for your results? Like I mentioned, the glycogen in the water are huge parts of this. And if you think of your legs, like look at your legs. I can kind of tell you to look in the mirror, but I want you to look in the mirror without picking yourself apart and just see how huge your legs are compared to the rest of your body. They're freaking huge. They take up like half of you. Like your leg muscles. Compare your forearm to your leg. Compare your upper arm to your leg. How much bigger is that thing? Like it's huge. Your quads are 4 muscles. 4. So that's 4 huge things. 2 of them, not 1, 2. So that's 8 huge things. They're like sponges. They're huge freaking sponges. So think about 4 huge sponges on both of those legs. When you eat more food and you're not trying to get by on tiny little calories, little carbs, killing yourself with cardio, those things are going to fill up with water. They're going to be a lot more hydrated. And it's not bulk, and it's not fat, and it's not muscle. It's just the flux of water. And it's something that we really need to try to get a lot more comfortable with, which is why we need to friggin' toss the scale. Because even with your menstrual cycle, this happens. And if you don't get used to this flux that you're feeling within your body, in your belly, in your everything, it's going to sabotage you the closer you get to menopause and thereafter. Well, mostly just when you get to menopause. And that's because of the fact that your hormones also do this very thing. You become a lot more insulin sensitive, insulin resistant, et cetera, but none of that impacts fat gain or fat loss unless you're eating in a surplus. And the flux of hormones doesn't impact that. Your behaviors do, your actions do. And if you're going to put in a lot less effort into your training because of the fact that you're fearing all of this, or you alter your food habits, or you slash your calories down into another deficit, over time, all that's going to happen is that you're going to be gaining a lot more body fat and looking softer over time while your metabolism starts to slow down and your hormones don't function as optimally as they should be. Because muscle mass is really freaking expensive tissue to build and expensive tissue to keep. So we need to be doing everything we can to be building it, if not keeping it. And every time you slash your calories and do this yo-yo type of on and off dieting without intention put into your phases, which I really don't like talking in phases because there's no real phases or periods to this outside of you're in a diet or you're not in a diet. And the diet should not be something that you focus on specifically intentionally outside of small windows of time that you go hard in and effectively. But just because you're not dieting does not mean you're gaining weight. And just because you're not dieting does not mean you're losing progress. And just because you're not dieting does not mean you're going to get fat. I'm not going to say you're not going to gain weight because you may gain weight, but it does not mean gaining fat. In fact, you probably will gain weight. But it's not fat. It is untapped potential. It is potentiating the most effective fat loss phases that you can have when you put yourself into it. It's just you cannot put yourself into one intentionally unless you've spent at least 6 months away from it. But depending on where you are, I would argue that building up a really solid training base to get as strong as you can and build up your training capacity is the best thing you can do for the leaner body that you want. And there's also the fact that we have a lot of hogs to unwind and to fix and a lot of maintenance work to do in our brains because of the past yo-yoing and dieting history and struggles and fallbacks, et cetera, of the past. We need to start to rewire all of this. We need to get rid of the residue and the fatigue in our brain. Because as much as we try to force it and push it and think about dieting and stay obsessed with the scale and metrics, as long as we stay in the mindset of the past, we are never going to give ourselves the opportunity to be able to lose fat effectively. You really won't. An effective fat loss phase is one that you can endure for long enough to get to the result, but not just that, long enough to endure the hard, to push through the hard, to do the hard shit when you least want to show up when you least want to make sacrifices when you least want to. And if that has been your whole history, you are not going to do that. There are going to be a lot of leaks. So it's going to be a lot of effort with a lot of that effort leaking, and it's not worth it. Do you want to struggle through it, or do you want it to be a smooth process? We need to stop sabotaging ourselves. This is so freaking important for you to understand. I kind of touched on two subjects there, but this just emphasizes why it is so important. Because that muscle mass of your legs, think about this, your legs being the biggest muscles in your whole body. Imagine how much of your metabolism that contributes to. When you train to do leg presses and lunges and RDLs and deadlifts and squats, how much freaking weight are you lifting compared to your biceps, compared to your delts if you're doing them properly, compared to your back, compared to your chest? Your back, you can also lift quite a lot because your back is also a huge muscle group. But chest, delts, biceps, triceps, think about that. What you can build yourself up to strength-wise, muscle-wise in your legs is going to be fundamental to you aging well, to you aging with a roaring metabolism, healthy hormones, anti-inflammatory, really good for your immune system, really good for your brain health, because muscle is not inert. Muscle releases these things called myokines. Myokines are a huge part of keeping your blood sugar levels healthy. It reduces insulin resistance. It keeps diabetes at bay. Like, it steers away diabetes. It's a big fighter of many diseases. It keeps our fat mass like as minimal as possible because of the fact that it is imperative to metabolism. It's imperative to inflammation. It's also imperative to bone formation. It's also imperative to fighting cancer and also imperative to brain function. It's huge. Muscle is so much more than just aesthetics. And the fact that you have the opportunity to build your legs as well is huge. If you look around in this shopping center at most people, they are very top heavy. They store a lot of body fat around their bodies. They have like these huge torsos and skinny, tiny legs that if they fall, you can only imagine what's going to happen later on in their years. You have so much potential to create the foundation of the best of the rest of your life starting here. So please understand this. Now back to it. Glycogen, water, big sponges, 8 of them, 4 in each leg. And I'm just talking about the quads. There's also the hamstrings. Most people, they don't build solid hamstrings, which is why the back of their legs always look spongy and cottage cheesy. And that's because hamstrings are really hard to build because a lot of people either ego lift with form or they don't know how to hinge properly or leg curl properly. And those are the 2 main exercises for your biceps femoris. That's what it's called. That's what I tried to call it. But your hamstrings. And a lot of people get bored from doing the same exercises, but they're really the king 2 exercises for your hamstrings. And the body and the legs that you want, they are double, if not more, stronger than you are right now. Regardless of where you are, the body you want is going to be double in strength than you are now, or more. The stronger you get, the better you're going to look physique-wise. It's just that we need to keep nutrition also matching the performance. The people that you see that are really strong that don't have the physiques, it's typically because they don't give a shit about the nutrition the way that I know that you do. If this is your goal long term, you don't need to care about it that way if that's the case, but we need to at least get you to a healthy body fat percentage if you want to thrive in life. If you want to, avoid cardiovascular diseases. Now, the thing that we need to keep thinking of is fueling our performance and being in the best place recovery-wise, nutrition-wise to push our best performance is what's going to lead to the physique changes that we want to see. So whatever we do with our nutrition, if we're prioritizing what makes us feel good, what makes us feel energized, what makes us feel at our strongest, at our best, that is going to lead to the results that we want. And strong does not just mean strong in the gym, and performance doesn't mean just performance in the gym. You can smash yourself in the gym and then finish from the gym and be completely wiped out for the rest of the day because you didn't do your nutrition right. And I've seen many people try to approach cardio and training in that way, and then they end up craving sugar for the rest of the day, having energy dips for the rest of the day, and then not being able to stop themselves at nighttime. They're all linked. Everything is connected. This is why your nutrition is so important. This is why a smart training plan is important, because the more you do, not the better, because that can also lead to you craving more sugar because your body is going to be craving that if you have not fueled it properly, or if you're doing more than your body can recover from. And it is really important for you to push progressive stimulus. It's just that a lot of people think that progressive overload just means chasing the weights going up. And that can actually lead to you regressing if it's not done the right way. Because weights going up, you need to make sure your form's there. And if your progress in weights is not slowing down over time, then you're doing it wrong. Yes, it should start off pretty quickly at the start of a new exercise. I'm not going to say a new program because programs shouldn't change drastically that you have new exercises for everything. It should be trait. Programs should be adjusted very strategically so you're still able to progress. And that's another thing. Like if your programs aren't progressed program to program, you're not really going to see the changes that you want either, because having a whole new program each month isn't going to lead to changes that you want. Changing exercises here and there at the 6 or 8 week mark. I like the 8 week mark. Reps, maybe, yeah, at the 6 week. But then you want some king exercises that string forward for a long period of time. Because the key to building lean legs is getting stronger on key movements over time. Getting stronger is a surefire way to see the results that you want. So if you're looking for ways to measure progress, look at your logbook or take filmages and compare your films over months, over even years. This is what's built the body that I have now. If it wasn't for that, I would not be where I am now. It's getting stronger that builds everything. But most people don't connect the two. All they can think is, I just want to look better than I do right now. I just don't like how I look and I just want to look better. I just want to be confident in a bikini. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what does it. Like, if I can't show you the connection between those two, which is why I'm making these asides, like, I need to make this connection to you so you can see how important it is. So it's not like I'll focus on that later. Like, no, this is the way there. This is the way. That whole like obstacle is the way. This isn't even an obstacle. Like stronger is the way. And it's not just about strength and aesthetics and muscle. Like stronger is a whole different mindset. You're starting to get excited. And the more that we can drive your focus in that direction, the less you're going to focus on what the scale says, on all these things that lead to you kind of spiraling and wondering what the progress is, and then saying that nothing's happening, this, that, and the other, sabotaging with food, because what you focus on expands. So let's expand the good shit and feed it. Something else to know about glycogen, because we need the carbs, we need this energy to actually fuel the progress I was talking about. Every gram, just 1 gram of glycogen holds, well, they typically say 3, but it's been shown in literature to be about 3 to 7-ish, depending, holds water. And then if you're taking creatine and your cells are nice and full, that's another good thing. But the thing is, you're not going to notice that once you've been taking it consistently. I've been taking it since the day that I started training. So I don't notice the difference when I take it. I only notice the difference when I don't. And my lifting goes to shit. And then salting our foods, which we need to do because salt is part of our energy systems. So the carbs, they hold water. And then we're going to try to be a little more hydrated. And then we're going to be eating a lot more fruits and veggies. And those in themselves have high water content, which we want because that's going to help us feel full and satiated. It's also high in fiber. So that slows down a little bit of the digestion, which keeps us fuller for longer, which also adds to the hydration that we feel. And all of these things that I'm mentioning also come with some scale weight. It's all very good shit because it's called powering your potential for leanness. This is needed. So what you're feeling isn't fat and it's not bulk. It's your body adapting to the hard work you're putting in. This is making your hard work worth it. Think of your legs as those giant sponges, but also think of them as tanks. I like saying tanks because they are the biggest muscles. And when we think tanks, we think big things, except now we're thinking of them as power machines, like they're machines. Your metabolism is like this machine, this furnace. That's what your legs are. And this is why they can feel so much fuller than any other muscle group after you train. Also, because so many of you guys wear tight pants. Not everybody wears blouses to work, but a lot of you wear tight pants and a lot of you wear jeans. And that can really trip you up, especially if you're new to this, especially if you're new to training really hard. Like, it's not going to go away. It's going to stay there for quite a damn while. And why is that? Because as you train, as you become more trained from untrained to trained, like you can be untrained if you haven't been training properly and lifting weights the way that you want to lift weights for lean, defined muscles, for stronger muscles, because your muscles actually increase these little proteins on them. They're called proteins, but they're like channels and they're glucose transporters. So they can allow glucose to go into the cells. So it increases the glucose storage. The more that you use them and the more that you demand energy with those muscles, the more that they're going to need to adapt so that they can take in more and use more, which is why when you get better at using carbs, the more carbs you can eat. This is so good. The more muscle you have, the more trained you become, the fitter you become, the stronger you become. This is where the stronger comes in. The stronger you become, especially the stronger you become, the more glucose you can tolerate, the more carbs you can eat and tolerate without energy crashes, without feeling fluffy, without having your energy go haywire. The better you become at burning fat, because your body is going to be biasing burning fat because now it has this metabolic fuel. This is how it all comes together. Feeling fuller after intense training or high carb days will only sabotage you if you don't understand why they feel fuller. Carb cycling was probably one of the biggest things that made me realize this, because on my high carb days, Saturday and Sunday, I felt fine because it wasn't like I was training. I felt full, yeah. But then when I trained really hard and pushed my legs really hard, I had freaking tree trunk legs and I felt fat. And I'm just like, I feel so fat. My legs are touching and I can't do anything without them touching. And I'm just trying to adjust my shorts. This is when my carbs were like 600 grams. Yeah, literally 600 grams of carbs on the weekends, like 300 and something days. So Monday and Tuesday, they would stay really full and they'd be fuller after hard training because I was eating so much more food on the weekends and more carbs. But it wasn't fat. And then I'd adjust back to normal by the end of the week. And then the cycle would repeat. And I'm like, holy shit, I know what it feels like now. But this is where it gets tricky because that fullness is so foreign to you that it is so hard to regulate your emotions and your feelings and your triggers. And it's so easy to knee jerk and sabotage yourself. And I didn't like, it's not funny, but it's kind of silly what we do to ourselves. But it's kind of validated if you think about how we've been conditioned to think that smaller is better. And then if the scale goes up, oh my God, or if we feel bigger or whatever else, it just makes it so difficult. And especially when you're so used to just not feeling full all the time. But I think a really strong thing to remind ourselves is we can't really sculpt what's not there. I've pretty much described what you're feeling and validated it. Honestly, it can feel really disheartening and frustrating and scary to feel like you're doing everything right, only to have your pants feel tighter, to have the scale go up, to feel like you're going backwards. But what even is backwards? What even is progress? Someone told me upon conversation that slow, heavy training doesn't work for her. What do you mean it doesn't work? She's like, well, I didn't feel like I was progressing the same way. What does progress mean to you? Well, I didn't feel like I was seeing results. What does that look to you? It was just the fact that she didn't feel like her heart rate was really high and she didn't feel like she was smashed to the ground every workout. And this is why one of my girls has made the most phenomenal progress ever. She came to me hating squats, resenting so much of her workouts, hating the gym, to now really wanting to be as consistent as possible. And when she isn't able to be consistent because of how crazy her life is right now, she actually feels sad about it. And she really wants to go. She does everything she can to go. She's stronger than ever. She loves squatting. She gets excited to squat, and her squat form it's pretty much pristine now. She has a hobby and she has all the energy to be able to handle her chaotic life with all the family drama that's going on, which she would not have been able to do before because she was always tired. She was sometimes ending up in tears because of how tired she was. She was just emotionally zapped. There are so many benefits that come from getting on the right plan and understanding that this isn't supposed to be a grueling process. Cutting carbs, adding in more cardio, trying to lean out every single time that we feel like we're gaining weight or being so scared to gain fat that we stay stuck on low calories, stay stuck in the more is better mentality, in the restrictive mindset, even if you're not losing weight or seeing progress downwards, doesn't mean you're not dieting mentally. People say, well, I haven't dieted in years. And what they mean by that is I haven't seen results in years, but they've still been dieting mentally. And that is even worse than dieting. Like, it is worse. It has much more of a dramatic, drastic, negative cascade of impact metabolically and hormonally, even though you're physically not doing it. You can't separate physiology from psychology. You can't separate the brain from the body. So think about this. Every single time you cut carbs, add more cardio, well, in reality, you're just sabotaging progress. But every single time you do that, every single time you stop yourself, just when you were making progress, even though it didn't feel like progress at the moment. So I guess, how many times have you stopped yourself every single time you attempted to make progress and shifted your path towards that? How many times have you looked back and thought, if I just stuck with it, where could I be now? Probably haven't until now. Realizing, because I had that conversation in one of my other podcasts with Ali, where she's like, I wonder how fancy that. Fueling for performance and training with intention go hand in hand, but also making sure the recovery is there, the sleep is there, the rest is there. Your training is effective and not loaded with 10 or more exercises, because you shouldn't have 10 freaking leg exercises. Like, you shouldn't even really have 8 exercises there. There are only certain circumstances where I would have a little bit more there. But more than 10 is overkill for nearly everyone. And if hip thrusts are the main cake to your program, then I wouldn't say that's a smart program either if glutes are the goal. It's hard to do this alone when it's so different from what you know, and the sensations are going to be ones that are new and uncomfortable. I get it. It's really hard to trust yourself, and it's hard to know if the feelings you're feeling are the right ones. And now that you know that they are, it's like, yeah, but is this still on the right path? Or am I just feeling these things and in a few years' time, I'm going to end up in a worse place? Because what if I'm just gaining fat? What if I'm not actually doing the training and the nutrition the way that I should be? Where, yeah, I know that this is needed, but is it the right plan for me? Because that's what I used to think. And that's why I was just like, you know what? I'm not wasting any more time. I'm not wasting any more brain energy. This is taking too much away from what I'm passionate about. And I'm going to keep, like, I can know everything that I know and still sabotage myself because I don't see myself as I am. And I also, like, I don't see things objectively. And not just that, it's like, I don't have enough time to give it. I have better places to put my time. It's just now I don't sabotage ever because I know the process and I never berate my body. I'm loving the process. I'm loving everything now because I was just like you. I was human. I haven't had to experience that for the last friggin' four years now. It took me 2 years with my coach, 2 or 3 years with my coach to get to that place where I didn't have to worry anymore. The last 4 years with my coach, yes, I still have a coach. I've been looking forward to growth. And it's why I've made the best progress of my life in the last 2 years. In the last 4 years, I never thought that I did. I was like, I just look the same. I don't care. Like, I don't do progress photos. I don't do any of that shit because it's just mental masturbation to me. But when I look at my gym selfies, when I look at my training videos, my body has completely changed. Sometimes I feel like I lost muscle, but when I look at my body composition, it's changed. And I also know that progress isn't linear. I also respect all the different things that happened in my life the last 3 years. So many things happened. I had a surgery. I had gut issues that took me out they were so bad for 1 month. And then the moving, there was so many different things. And I think we don't actually take that into context when we're reviewing how we're going. So get a coach. That's like the best thing I can say. Get on a program that you can just go all into and stop second guessing yourself. Because when the scale freaks you out and your legs feel bulky, it is so easy to end up back in that same place with history repeating itself. But we know how that ends up. This is where having your coach honestly makes all the difference. It really, really does. The legs you want don't come from shrinking. They don't come from second guessing. They come from building strength, trusting the process, staying consistent, and realizing that fullness isn't a sign of failure. It's actually a sign of progress. It's a sign of you doing the work, working hard. That's a sign that everything is paying off. It's just a sign that your body is adapting in the process of building something incredible. And the confidence and the results that you want are just on the other side. But if you want to stop spinning your wheels and actually build the legs and glutes that you've been chasing, just shoot me a DM or message me on Instagram or shoot me an email and we can talk about what's been holding you back and see if we can put you on the right path to progress so you don't have to do this alone and you just stop sabotaging because it's a waste of time and energy. Love you all.